It's October 2016, just a few weeks before the general election this year. And the candidates this year, of course, are Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And they are both very unpopular with a lot of people. But I saw a post the other day, someone on the internet, who said that she just could not believe that people were going to vote for Trump because they hated Hillary, and talked about all the damage that he would do if into office. And part of a general mentality that there are a lot of people out there have been, since he secured the nomination, even before the Republican nomination, have just been in absolute panic mode over inflammatory statements that Donald Trump has made. Unfortunately, the nominee on the Democratic side is Hillary Clinton. And a lot of people out there seem to feel that given the two choices, that she would be a safer choice. That if Hillary were to get elected to the presidency, well, at least things would just sort of be okay. That, we may not like her, maybe we can't stand her, but that maybe she's at least going to be a safe choice and things won't get too bad. And that's sort of a consensus that has developed in the closing months of this election. A lot of people think that of the two, Hillary is a safe choice, that things wouldn't be too bad, that things would be at least okay under a Hillary Clinton administration. And that's what a lot of people say. Well, I say different. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. I'll never forget when a new word got coined in the vocabulary of American economics. At least the first time I ever heard it was around 1995 or so, during the second year of the Clinton administration. And the new word I'm talking about is downsizing. You see, Bill Clinton's got a lot of credit over the years for the fact that there was growth in the gross domestic product of the United States was growing during his term of office, and it was growing pretty good for most of that term, and employment numbers were high. And so he's been getting a lot of credit as some kind of economic miracle worker, even though for 6 of his 8 years there was a Republican majority in the House and the Senate. And I think what happened during those years was more of an accident than it was anything else, because you had two parties at loggerheads and sort of a gridlock type situation. And he did get some Republican type legislation passed. There was welfare reform, and what a disaster that was. People who say that welfare reform was a huge success are only interested in one thing, and that is the number of people who got off welfare. What happened to them after that point, they don't really care about that. If a lot of people got off welfare, they consider that a huge success. And during the first couple of years of administration, there was a Democratic majority in both houses of Congress, and they threw a bone to the working class. They threw a bone to people who work for companies in the United States, and that bone was called the Family and Medical Leave Act, and it provided unpaid medical leave to people who had been on the job for about a year, and then they had a need to take care of someone in the family who got seriously ill, or they had a child or something like that. They could take unpaid leave and not have to worry about losing their job. So that was the one bone that got thrown to the American working class during the Clinton administration. And of course, work started on a health care reform bill, which probably wouldn't have been much better than what happened with Obamacare, because the Clintons, quite honestly, don't give a damn about the working class. They never have. They don't care that much about the middle class either. Actually, they like to talk about the middle class, but they don't actually care a lot about the middle class. The thing you'll find with the Clintons, the thing I've found with them anyway, is that the Clintons care about the Clintons. They love power for the sake of power. They want to be in high public office because they believe that they deserve it. And it's all about their career, and it's all about place in history, and they don't really care so much about the lives of ordinary people. That's mostly a put on. So they did throw this bone to the working class in the first couple of years, called the Family Medical Leave Act of 1993. Of course, conservatives went absolutely nuts over this, in spite of the fact that it's unpaid leave, which is how ridiculous conservatives are. Unpaid leave. They didn't want people to be guaranteed unpaid leave. They wanted people to be fired for, needing to be absent and not being paid. That's how ridiculous they are. But still, the leave was unpaid, and they could have done a lot better. They could have made it paid leave. There are states that have made some moves in that direction, and it's only about 6 weeks in the states that have done it. But at least, there are some states that have made that move, and it can be done. Paid maternity leave, it can be done. But then in 1994, Republicans won control of both the House and the Senate, and the issue then, as it was in 2010, was health care. People were extremely upset about what was going to happen with health care, and so they voted Republican majorities in both the Senate and the House, and health care reform was dead for many years to come. And then, of course, there was Obamacare, and that was a weak tea solution, and now the prospect of needed health care reform is about to be dead again for a long time, or so it appears. But after the Republican majority took over both houses of Congress, you got this welfare reform bill, and you got NAFTA. And NAFTA, the latest figures that I've seen on it is that it has cost something over 1 million jobs in the 20 years that it's been in effect. A lot of the people who are big supporters of free trade even admit that it hasn't done much for the employment side in the United States. And I'm thinking, well, if not, why do things like that if they're not going to help the employment side? Because this product availability at decent prices, that's not going to help a lot if people are out of work or seriously underemployed or something like that. But during the Clinton administration, I started to hear this word downsizing. People had worked for big name companies for years. People who'd been there for 15 or 20 years, and then all of a sudden somebody somewhere decides that it's in the best interest of that company to start doing more with less, or at least doing the same with less, and people find themselves just cut off. After 15, 20, 25 years of service, they're just gone. Thousands of people at one time. And this became a trend. Downsizing. And later they tried to use the euphemism right-sizing. But what right-sizing really meant was butchery, just cut people off. No regard whatsoever to what happened to the people. They just wanted to improve their bottom line and start delivering shareholder value. Well, a lot of the companies who engaged in this downsizing also wanted to maintain the same level of output. Can you see where this is going? Because another word entered in the regular speech about American economics. Can you guess what that word was eventually? Multitasking. And we know from neuroscience that the human mind cannot multitask effectively. It just cannot. What people call multitasking is actually switching between tasks multiple times. That's what it really is. You're not actually doing more than one thing at a time. You're switching back and forth between tasks. But so you had this downsizing, you had this multitasking, and you had this insidious, slow degradation in the economy where things were getting harder and harder, and the money that people was earning wasn't so good, and the jobs that became available to most people were pretty bad. And then the George W. Bush administration came along and didn't help anything. Conservatism never helps anything. And so that continued, and then it was greatly exacerbated during the Great Recession. And then we come out of the recession, and these trends toward making do with small workforces and paying low wages and all that, well, that's how everybody does everything now. Companies brag about the fact sometimes that they have low pay and benefits. And it's almost a badge of honor if they cut employees, or they cut benefits, or they do things that damage the quality of lives of their workforce. And that was going on during the first Clinton administration, and they didn't make an effort to do a damn thing about it. they couldn't have gotten any legislation through because it was Republican Congress. But, maybe the veto pen or something, but they didn't even try, because the Clintons, quite honestly, don't give a damn about the working class. They don't give a damn about the middle class. They care about the Clintons. That's all they care about. And so you had this situation that started to develop in the 1990s where things started getting progressively worse for working class people and for middle class people, and the middle class started to shrink, and it was a slow, gradual decline. And even today, we're seeing the effects of where that has led. Now, I'm not claiming that Reaganomics was a good thing. It wasn't. It was a horrible thing. Reaganomics was a horrible thing. And we're seeing consequences of that as well. But what I'm saying to you is the Clintons have never done anything for the working class. They've never done very much for regular, normal, sort of middle-class people or working-class people. Instead, during that administration, things started getting progressively worse, and it was this slow, insidious change for the worse. The changes that have impacted the American workforce didn't happen overnight. That has been going on for a very long time. It's been a slow process, this gradual change, and that's going to continue under a Hillary administration if one gets in, because as I've said, she's got this kind of Ivy League elitist mentality of times are changing and you either change or die. And that's pretty much the way it is. And that's the way they see things. And you're not going to see any major initiatives to impact the lives of regular, ordinary people. What you'll continue to see is slow, gradual degradation. It's something that started way back then, and now it's gotten to a point that would have been unbelievable, say, 20 years ago. And it's happened so slowly that people haven't been aware of the changes. Well, that's what's going to happen under a Hillary administration if she gets in. Things will get progressively worse, because there's no way they can get better. She's going to face a Republican majority in the House anyway. She's not that good of a leader. He's not that good of a leader either. And I actually think those people, as far as their moral values are concerned, are pretty trashy. Consider his affairs and consider what's gone on in their marriage, and maybe they had an open marriage, maybe they still do, who knows. But I sent a text message today and I said that on the internet all the buzz is about a Hillary landslide, and I told the person, get ready for hell in a handbasket if that happened, because the trashy Clintons only care about themselves. They care about themselves. They don't care what happens to you or me or anybody else in the country. They care about themselves. It's the Clintons first, last, and always. And no, it's not going to be an okay choice. The very least you'll see is this continual, slow, insidious change for the worse for most working people. Now, is that a good thing? Is that an acceptable thing? I don't think it is. I think this 2016 election is kind of like the sword of Damocles. It's a situation where things are likely, no matter what happens, to get very bad in the future. But don't anybody out there be feeling good about the possibility, or even okay about the possibility of a Hillary administration, because that's not going to be okay. That's going to be a huge negative. The first administration of theirs wasn't good for regular people, and this third one, if that's what you call it, that's not going to be either. So don't anybody have this notion that the Hillary administration is going to be okay, because I'm telling you, it's not. It's going to be bad, and it's going to be really bad. It may be that the bad consequences will be mostly long term, If so, it'll take a while for people to figure that out. But by then, the damage will be done, won't it? Just a word to the wise.